It was a game that came with a lot of promise, a lot of expectation, and boy, did it deliver. An absolute Premier League classic, and one that we're going to be talking about a lot today. We're back with another episode of One Kick from Glory. I'm joined, as always, by Craig
Yeah.
and Matthew. Of course, I'm talking about the legendary game, the fixture that has defined many a season, not necessarily the last few seasons, Liverpool versus Arsenal, a game that has had so much drama, excitement, French flair, no fights, and Jamie Carragher getting embarrassed on more than a few occasions. I think he just likes to be left on his arse against Arsenal. But for you, Craig, what's your earliest memory of the Arsenal versus Liverpool battles or the rivalry that exists there?
I think it was 97, 98 season when Arsenal played Liverpool twice, once at Highbury, once at Anfield. And the game at Highbury, I didn't have Sky at the time, but I was listening to it on the radio. And I remember when McManaman scored that volley,
Oh, yeah.
that volley from far right, and it was right in the top corner. I was like, wow. I remember that season, like it was a good rivalry because Liverpool had some great players at England international. They had a young Michael Owen coming through. You had Robbie Fowler. You had what's his name, Jamie Redknapp. Paul Ince played for Liverpool at that time as well. So Liverpool had a good team. That I think David James was in goal. They had I think it was Rob Jones. Who else did they have? They had a decent team, but they didn't really win as much in the 90s as only 2000 started winning stuff. But in the 90s, they had a decent team, but couldn't challenge United. Every season they were in the title race. Toward the end of the season, they always fall off, and then United always win the league. So, but Liverpool had a good team in the 90s, but they didn't have the great managers to replicate the talent they had in their squad. But it was a good rivalry back in the day.
And for you, Matthew, what would you say is one of your earliest kind of memories of like the Arsenal-Liverpool rivalry?
I'm going to go a little bit further forward from where Craig is, the 90s. I kind of picked up on a little bit, most because like the time Sky was lacking in the household at the time, at the moment, at then. I'm going to go with when Gerard Houllier stepped into the helm. So we're talking late 90s. I might be wrong, but definitely saying like the early 2000s. There was a game and you were playing in your Sega kit. And even as a Chelsea fan, I do like that kit. But I do remember you losing that game because I think you won the Premier League that time. I'm not entirely sure. And then Mark and Owen came by and kind of like hit you hard in that final. I think it was a 2-1. It was like a 2-1. So I'm sorry to say, but that was one of my...
Yellow and black kit. Adidas, if you're listening, like bring it back.
It was a nice kit.
I'm saying.
It was a nice kit. Because I think you can't like the Arsenal Liverpool. It's not like an Arsenal Man U. It's not like a Liverpool Everton. It's not even like an Arsenal Spurs or even an Arsenal Chelsea. The Arsenal Liverpool one is a very kind of unique rivalry because they kind of met in the middle with their styles. You're bringing in the futuristic flair, changing diets, international markets. You're all about the kind of like cosmopolitan style of football. Whereas Liverpool were coming off at the time 10 years of winning the league, promising to win the league year after year after year. But it's kind of like they were focusing more on their domestic market and still doing really well there, like just being a good family club playing good football. If there's one thing you can always say about Liverpool and the Anfield atmosphere is that the football is always going to be like really, really good. Also at the time, when you look at your players, you have two rising stars coming from almost obscurity. One from, coming from Juve as a raw youngster. The other one coming from their ranks. I'm talking about Steven Gerrard and Thierry Henry. Both rising different ways, different styles, but both definitely like, if you're going to do your all-time Premier League teams, sub, starter, whatever, both of those players, I would say nine times out of 10 will be in those lists. So, and obviously Wenger stood the time. They went through managers like Houllier, and obviously went through with Rafa Benitez, Kenny Dalglish, Brendan Rodgers, coming all the way far forward now to Klopp. So many people know, a lot of Liverpool fans look at Klopp in a certain type of way. So yeah, your rivalry is kind of unique, but it's only kind of, if anything, has risen time and time and time again, because it almost feels like, because Arsenal were just so far ahead, that gap is now closed where Liverpool are coming up, and to where you are now, it's like it's almost like it's reading some kind of epic thing, because for the last few years Liverpool had the number until now. So it's a unique rivalry, very, very unique rivalry. Obviously both being red and also, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one. I think for me, my earliest memory probably is going to be. I mean, the season where it really kind of stood up to me was definitely the 03-04 season. I vaguely remember the 2000, 2001, that particular match, but it didn't really kind of hit me. It's 03-04. That's when it really hit me, and especially one of my favourite ever goals scored by an Arsenal player in the Premier League is we beat them at Anfield 2-1. Robert Pires. Mate,
Lovely
just,
stuff.
ball was, I think it was a long ball played out, chased down by Ali Adair towards the left, right corner flag, but left if you're attacking, right if you're defending. Picks it up in the corner, dribbles it back towards the edge of the box, pops it into Pires, who does a 1-2 with Edu, gets it back, shuffles inside. There's a little shake and bake, and then just curls it. And Jersey Dudek is just praying. God ain't listening. Nestle's beautiful goal, and then the celebrations afterwards. I just loved it because I think that goal in the match at the time, with obviously how that season ended, but that was quite a pivotal game for us in terms of being able to kind of go on to not just win the title but be invincible. And obviously in the return leg, we all know Liverpool went 1-0 up or 2-0 up.
2-0 up.
At Highbury, and Thierry Henry went in the dressing room and said, "Nah, I ain't having this." And literally went on and scored one of the best goals Highbury's ever seen. He's got a catalogue of goals from Highbury, but one of the best ones. Left Carragher on his ass. Not for the first time in his career, but left him there and, slotted it in nicely past Dudek. And just the roar of Highbury. Again, it's one of those moments that you think the Emirates has, and I think for a long time, been sort of in need of something more than just like trophies, that moment. And we've had good moments in the Emirates Stadium, but I think that moment at Highbury, the roar, I think this season we've come close to it. I think Reece Nelson's goal probably replicates the roar that Omri got that day. But let's switch obviously to the game we had at the weekend. A lot riding on it, a lot of expectations. Obviously, this was finally a time to really kind of get back at Liverpool and end this long running inability to win at Anfield. The last time we won, Arteta was a player, beat them in 2012. It was the 2-0. Santi Cazorla and Abu Diaby had a man-of-the-match performance. Absolutely sensational game from him.
Podolski and
Cazorla got the goals, but Diaby in midfield, in the engine room, was just unplayable. He left Gerrard on his bum a few times. But for you, Craig, when you saw the lineup that was announced for the weekend, obviously we went with as strong an 11 as we could go. Not quite our strongest because we were missing William Saliba. But how did you feel about that team going into the game?
It was a strong team, very strong team. I was a bit surprised that Trossard got dropped, but then I realised that you could use him as an impact sub, and it was a strong lineup. As I said to you in the house, I was very nervous going into the game because I know that we were doing one in the league here, but I was worried about the Anfield because Anfield's a place here where it doesn't matter. It's like a derby game because. You never in a derby game. Anyone can win a derby game. It doesn't matter how good your form is. Anyone can win a derby game. So, in that game, I felt that I was a bit worried because I was like, Liverpool at home. They got that crowd, the Anfield crowd. When that crowd gets fired up, they push that team. They're like the 12th man. They push that team to the end. And then we went 2-0 up. I said, yes, we're doing well. And then we had one moment of madness that cost us, like Granit Xhaka had an altercation with Trent Alexander-Arnold.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
I wanna dissect this properly.
Okay.
We'll get into that. But yeah, you were kind of, again, Trossard not starting, you were a bit surprised. Maybe thought he could have probably got the start. For you, Matthew, when you saw the two teams lined up, obviously Liverpool, the 11 that they went with, were you a bit surprised by what they did? Obviously, from the previous game, we know that Klopp had dropped some players or rested them. Some were dropped. He wouldn't confirm who was dropped, but they went for what I would classify as their strongest back five: Alisson, and then Trent, Robertson, Konate, Van Dijk. Midfield three, definitely not their strongest, but probably the best they could have fitness-wise. So Fabinho, Henderson, and Curtis Jones. And their front three, again, not their strongest front three, but what they wanted to start with, which is Salah, Gakpo, and Jota. What was your thoughts when you saw that 11?
So this is what I was thinking, where, obviously in the position you're in, you're clearly better than us at the moment. So clearly it matches expectation, whereas like he was clearly saving his best team to play at that game, because I think we played on I think it was a Tuesday or the Wednesday to come forward to a Sunday. Now I know that's a good gap in between, but playing a high profile game midweek does take it out of you sometimes. You're more inclined psychologically to play these games on the weekend, but playing a game like a Chelsea-Liverpool game, whatever the table says, still a very high-profile game. To play that in the week is quite strange. So I do get him playing a slightly weakened team, which makes it worse because we didn't beat them. So when I saw this team coming through to Arsenal, I was like, he wants something from this. Whether he thought he could get a win and rely on the crowd and rely on Anfield and the home form to back them up, I don't know. But he clearly wanted something because you realise that you're coming in some good form. We all know what you're fighting for. You jinx it. I'm not going to jinx it because it's very likely to happen, but you never know. But yeah, I mean, I saw this was going to be a fun game, and I saw your lineup as well, bar, Saliba with holding in that hair that I can't explain. Really can't explain. He rocks it though. It waves around so nicely. It does. I saw him. I mean, I saw especially when they conceded the penalty. But yeah, it was the hair looking good though. Yeah, it was just I wasn't surprised at all. It just made me angry the fact that that's the team that we could have played that didn't, and the team we could play, minus Virgil van Dijk, didn't win. So yeah, it was. We always got to play the strongest team.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting that the players that sat on the bench, so Nunes on the bench, for Firmino, and we'll get onto Firmino a bit later, but Firmino has always been the scourge of Arsenal, and I'm so glad that you're finally leaving the Premier League. You have been a great testament to this league, but good riddance. Don't come back. All the best in your career. And if you play Arsenal again, you don't have to score. It's not an obligation. You really don't have to score. Just saying, sick of it. He reminds me of Drogba, in that player that just no matter what, you just know they're going to get something. But yeah, so then I went back and rewatched the game actually yesterday, and I was quite taken aback by watching it without the emotion of seeing it live. Because when it's live, it's kind of really hard to sort of analyze things as you're watching, because you're not really watching to analyze, you're just watching to kind of get the result. And what was quite interesting for me is that when you look at the first 5-6 minutes, obviously Arsenal scored in the 7th minute to make it 1-0, but the first 5-6 minutes, it was not as one-sided as the general sentiment, and maybe even how I felt at the time. I felt that Arsenal were dominating the game, but watching it back, actually it was a lot more balanced. And in fact, Liverpool had a number of good opportunities to make something happen, but for good bit of defensive play or very poor finishing, I think we looked quite good in that whole thing. But for you, Craig, looking at that first goal, let's just go through that goal, because for me it's been a feature of the three key players involved in the goal: Ben White, Bukayo Saka, and of course Gabriel Martinelli. Also, we'll talk about Virgil after. But for you, Craig, when you look at that goal, how did you, just talk me through the goal? Well, I'm just gassed. That goal was beautiful. First things first, Ben White and obviously Saka, they have this amazing chemistry on the right-hand side, and it's been developing over the season. And I just like the way how Saka left Robertson on his backside before kind of playing the ball through. But just for you, when you look at the fluidity of the goal, what was your thoughts watching it live?
One at the back, Ben White played to Saka. Saka tried to play it into Martinelli, but it got intercepted by Van Dijk, and then Martinelli just bulldozed, not even walked. He just went bulldozed straight through the defence, and then the keeper came out, just toe put under the goalkeeper, was a goal. 3 errors at the back, but one thing I like about Arsenal play now, we can from our goal kick, we can counter attack very quickly. So if the other opposition is attacking us and they lose the ball in a dangerous area, we can counter attack and go and on their goal very quickly, transition very quickly. So it's you can go from A to B in 2 seconds, like a fast train. Boom. So by the time you blink, back of the net, goal. And you have to give Arteta credit for that. That's all done in training. That's not done. That's all in training. They do that in possessional play, little small-sided games in training where you go, I want to get from one end of the pitch to the other end of the pitch in how many seconds, to time it. I want to get from there to there in no second. I need to do this, get there, and then whistle it, and then do it. They must do that a lot in training.
Yeah. I mean, it's also reminiscent of the goal that wasn't given at Old Trafford. Yeah. It's a similar type of run from Martinelli to go from out to in and to be so central. And obviously, Jesus was wide on the wing to kind of cover for him in that sense. For you, Matthew, looking at that goal again, Van Dijk, bless his cotton socks, all over the place, all over the shop. And we have there's this joke online about Van Dijk defending with aura because ever since he got this injury, he kind of backs off a lot more than he used to. But how do you look at his role in that first goal?
I think I saw the message on our chat. We said about it, not like Virgil van Dijk, more like Virgil van Dam. That had me on the absolute floor, I must say. So funny. I was not ready for that. But I'm going to reference something because I think this reminds me of another goal that you scored against us a couple of years ago. And so it kind of reminds me, and it kind of shows me the kind of player that he is. He leaves no scraps. Remember your goal when Kante did that slip?
Oh,
he was the only. Every time on social media, it just seems to come up because that was his first goal in the Premier League, wasn't it?
It's not that it just seems to come up, my friend.
How?
Arsenal Twitter, we recycled that thing for fun.
Arsenal, we got nothing better to show. God, bloody hell. but yeah.
Hey, we have a catalogue, but that one is special.
And he just keeps on, and that's the thing that I notice is that he leaves nothing. He leaves nothing, no scraps. This guy watches food when he eats his breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's not a crumb left. You know what? I'm going to go another one. On the Saturday before the game, and I was late at night for some reason, and I was watching Age of Ultron, and their mission was to kill all the robots, leave no scraps. Now, if the Avengers had Martinelli, this would have been done in 2 minutes. All the robots, dead. This guy leaves, and what I like about him was what we used to have. He leaves no scraps. Something is going to happen. All the bone, all the gravy, the beans, the ting, all his Brazilian, all his food, eating all of it. He's leaving nothing on the plate. And he knows something's going to happen. It could have gone to It could have been an own goal, but he wants to be there because you know what? It could fall to me. Van Dijk does, or Van Dam does a lovely assist. Boom, back of the goal. You just don't know. Feed on to it. The same thing that happened against Chelsea, the same thing that happened against United is the exact same thing that happened here. And that's how you bump your goals up from sheer chance. Because another day it might not go in, but that time it did. And you look back at chances like that and be like, this is what helps us get up the table to do the big one. That's what you do. Because if your strikers don't do it, your attacking wingers do. So that's what's... it's not so much about the terrible defending from Liverpool, but just the sheer, just never give up attitude of Martinelli just making that run. So, credit goes to him, just like, it might be something he learns on the pitch, but it's also just something as simple as just not leaving any scraps go to waste.
That's true. And of course, we fast forward from that goal onto the second goal. And Gabriel Jesus, I think in this match, and there was a lot of talk online pre-game that maybe we should start Trossard or, rest him because we're not quite sure how much he's going to be able to play his usual game in this match. But boy, oh boy, am I glad the manager doesn't use Twitter. He has a Twitter account, but it's just sitting there. But Jesus, in that goal, everything about it. Martinelli again involved, great little pick out to the back post. And then again, it gets free from Virgil van Dam. Free header. But it's just, again, with Jesus, he's one of the smallest guys on the pitch. Yeah. But he's got an incredible leap. But not only that, it's the precision in the cross. Because Martinelli put that on his head. And again, we'll talk about the precision a bit later because he kind of fluffed his lines at the end of the game. But what a performance from both of them. I remember there was even a moment in the second half when Jesus caught the ball down the sideline and he just shuffled. He just skipped past players. It was like watching Thierry Henry. I didn't know he had that in him. I mean, I think with Gabriel Jesus this season, it just surprises me the levels that he's got to him because I did not know he could do the stuff he's doing. Like, I knew he was good. I didn't know he was this good. I didn't expect half the stuff he's been doing for us this year. But for you, Craig, how impressed are you with Gabriel Jesus in the game?
He was excellent. It was top class. That's what Arsenal got bargained on the season when we bought him. How much did you pay for him? 30, was it 45?
About that.
Around that.
45 million. And you got players who are going for more than what more than his value. And you're looking like you're thinking he's been out injured for how many months? 3 months, almost 4 months. Come back, scored 2 goals in 3 games. And
he's level of goals with Darwin Núñez.
And how much did Darwin Núñez cost again?
A bit more.
A lot more. I think Jesus is like he brings that winning mentality to Arsenal that Arsenal have lacked for a long time since Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, that era of when Arsenal were winning big trophies. I think he brought that winning mentality, and I feel that what he did on Sunday was amazing, and the way how him and Martinelli link up together, dangerous. Even Saka as well. Saka linked up all for that front three. The way how they link up together, get goals and assists. They're always looking for each other to score. They're not being selfish. They're not being greedy. If they've ever missed a chance, they're not moaning or complaining. We've got a great team spirit this season at the club, and I feel that hopefully, they'll carry on.
Yeah, it's been great. And obviously, you mentioned earlier about the flashpoint between Granit Xhaka and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Like I said, I rewatched the match. And to be honest, that moment doesn't really... It's not the factor that caused what happens afterwards, the goal to make it 2-1. But people talk about it, so we're going to talk about it. I still think Trent should have gotten sent off because he does punch in the back of his head. But that's my personal opinion, if you don't agree with it. And we don't have Markus here to debate that one, unfortunately. But we'll talk about it next week on next week's podcast. But for you, Matthew, when you saw that little flashpoint, and I guess a good key thing to say, which is the point, I guess you were talking about that, Craig, when you mentioned it earlier, is that we know how important it is. You know, playing at Anfield is tough. You've mentioned all the games in history when we've played there. It's an intimidating ground. And in fact, I wanted to just be sure about it. Of all the games Liverpool played in all competitions this season, they've only lost 3 games at home.
Wow.
3 teams have beat them.
Real
They've only
Madrid.
lost once in the league at home against Leeds early in the season. They've lost to Real Madrid and Lyon.
Wow.
That's it.
When did they play Lyon?
Lyon was
League,
in... Lyon was a friendly.
Wow.
So they've only lost 2 games at home all season.
That's amazing.
So when you think about it, Liverpool having a bad year, but yet they've only lost 1 domestically in the league at home and 1 in Europe.
Against the champions of Europe.
They draw
anyway.
a lot. They gain a lot. It's
draw a
the
lot.
draws that's killing them. Not
They draw a lot, but it's their away form that's the problem. So I think that's quite telling. But yeah, Granit Xhaka versus Trent Alexander. But yeah, keeping the crowd quiet. Like, obviously that moment, again, I don't really think on the rewatch it did have that big of an impact on what followed like a minute after. But how naive was Xhaka to fall for the bait with Trent? Because it wasn't just Trent. He had a clash with Konate, literally seconds before, because Konate had a tackle with him. Konate had a little dig in the tackle, and Xhaka, you could see, was a bit riled up from that. And then he went into Trent, got the throw, or gave away the throw, and then Trent had the little afters. But how naive do you think he was in that moment?
I think this is a side, of him that, despite the fact that he's having a good year, playing alongside much better players that can bring out the best of him, that side of him, that temper side of him, is never going to fully ever go away. And even though as bad as a year Trent is having, he's still going to have a moment where he's like, I'm going to find that weak spot in the team and I'm going to pick at it. And, he is the target because he's prone to rashness. He's prone to making silly decisions and getting himself sent off or getting himself in an entanglement where, it's not in his favour like at Anfield. If it was at the Emirates, it might have been a little bit different because Anfield is a bar, say, Old Trafford is where referees have a really tough time because if they go and never know if they go against that home crowd, they're going to realise it for not even weeks, potentially years. So I think, again, despite having his colossal drop in form from the player that we know he can be, he still has that in his locker to wind himself up. He's got the tricks to be a forward player. I still think there's a position for him to be a forward player in the future for Trent Alexander-Arnold. But no, in hindsight, like you said, the game was a bit more balanced. I don't think it led directly to why you didn't win the game, but he might not think so. But yeah, he's just got to be. You've got to be careful, mate. You've got to be. You are the target for most teams because you have that mad dog temper in you. And then I know, please don't listen to this because I know you'll come for me. But yeah, he got away with it. Let's just say he got away with that one. He got away with it.
Yeah, I agree. It was a bit of a tough decision. I mean, I think on the balance, I think both of them should have been. I think Trent was definitely fired up, and like I said, he swung his arm at him, caught him in the back. I don't know how it was a yellow card for both of them.
Let's be real. Let's be real. Granit will knock him out.
Yeah, but Trent's the one who started it. Trent punched him or swiped at him with his, swiped at him. Let me not say punched him because some people are like, he didn't punch him. He swiped at him.
He's a
with his
football
arm.
hard man though, Xhaka. Yeah. In the modern days, you could have called him a football hard man. I wouldn't start a fight with Xhaka. You mad?
But I think it was interesting how that all played out, and obviously they got their goal. And for me, it was interesting how that goal came about because on first viewing, I was just like thinking, what on earth is going on? It's too easy for Liverpool to get through the team. On second viewing, it's even worse because what I've learned since from looking at a couple other games is that we have a sort of tactic in how we defend or how the line is done when we're defending to accommodate Zinchenko's attacking flair and what he does for us. And what we do is when we're defending in transition, Gabriel Magalhaes will drift out to left back spot. Zinchenko will then drift back and hold the centre before they swap out. And then the other two players, so then the other centre-back who's holding on this occasion, and then Ben White will be across as a 4. That's usually how we do it, and it works most times because Partey will be in front. Problem on this goal is all of them are all over the shop. So Ben White tries to pinch the ball in midfield, loses out in the duel. As a result, Holding starts to come over to right back. Partey's running back. This is when Curtis Jones is on the ball. Hasn't quite come to Robertson yet. Partey's telling Holding to stay in the centre, I'll go out to right back. Holding drifted over already. So now you have Holding at right back, so Partey has to go centre back. So Partey's at right centre back. As a result, like I said, how we stretch the defence, Zinchenko is next to Partey and Gabriel's at left back. Then you have then the ball settles at the edge of the box. Partey's Holding's got him, Partey's close by. Again, if they'd switched around, it'd been better. And then Curtis Jones is Robertson plays it into Jones and gets it back on the overlap, and he's free for days. He has the freedom of Merseyside, pulls the ball across, and because everyone's out of position in the middle, they don't anticipate what's going on behind them. So there's a little deflection. I think it was Jota had a swing at it, so which meant that
Salah was on marks, wasn't he?
Yeah, which meant that it kind of flicked past Zinchenko, and Gabriel's not aware that Salah's behind him. Because again, they should have swapped him, and Zinchenko and they had enough time to swap back around. They didn't, and then Salah gets a nice little tidy finish at the back post. It's scrappy, but it's the kind of goal that quality teams make. And then after that, then the game kind of still was a bit balanced. It wasn't really all Liverpool. We still had good attacks. They had good attacks. And then, of course, the equaliser came way later on. But for you, Craig, because obviously, we made a substitution prior to that. We brought on young Kivior for Ødegaard at that point in time. What did you think about that substitution? And do you think at that point, since we were going to a back 5, should we have just brought on Tierney rather than wait?
Remember I was saying to you in the house that we should bring on Tierney now? For the 20 minutes before the goal, I was saying bring on Tierney now because Zinchenko looks tired. He looks tired. Take him off. What happens? Zinchenko gets nutmegged. Trent nutmegs him, does him dirty. And what happens? Cross the ball and who scores? Firmino.
But again,
I was saying to Clive, take off. I could see he looked tired. He looked fatigued. Take him off. Take off. Bring on Tierney. Tierney would have stopped that goal as well. There's no way Tierney would have got nutmegged by
Tierney's not
Trent.
getting nutmegged, and even if Tierney did get nutmegged,
He would have smashed him.
The ball's going, but you're not coming with the ball.
Yeah.
Like he would have found a way to stop him. He'd have been like, "Boop, where you going? Boop, oh, you just ran into me."
Yeah.
I think we've got two good left backs at Arsenal, but I feel like if Tierney and if you had to make one player out of it to be a great player, you would need Tierney's defending over Shevchenko's defending because Shevchenko's better offensively, but Tierney's better defending. So you would rather have a player like who can do both, who can go forward and back. Some games, if we're winning and we have to shut up shop, you can either sacrifice a Martinelli or sacrifice an attacking player and put Tierney and Shevchenko in, or put Shevchenko in midfield and put Tierney left back.
We have done it this season where we've played Tierney left wing and had Zinchenko at left back.
Yeah.
We've done it this season, and multiple games this season.
And he won, didn't he?
And we've won.
Yeah.
Multiple games this season, we've done it.
Why didn't he do it?
I feel like Arteta was a bit naive with the changes. He took too long to make changes. I think this season, because of the game at United when he made 3 changes and we got lost 3-1. I think he's been very cautious to make changes. But sometimes in matches, like us as fans can see on the pitch, even neutral fans can see on the pitch, like the players are tired, and Liverpool does keep on counter-attacking us. And I feel like if we make a change to kind of break up their play, maybe we would have won that game.
But also, you made a really good point live, and you were saying that we need to get some control on the pitch. You were calling for Jorginho. I said to you, look, this game ain't for him because he'll get outrun. He'll be running past him like no one's business. But at the same time, looking at how that goal was conceded, and it's really strange because Kivior, you would have thought, he's played holding midfield before, we could have gone to a back. We could have gone to a two in front and had him and Partey next to each other and just protect the back line. But we went a bit more into we went to the back five protocol. Unfortunately, we don't have Rob Holding coming off the bench, so it didn't quite work out. And I even said at the time, like, it just felt a bit too premature. When you make that sub with 12 to 15 minutes left in the game, it signals to the opposition you are okay. This is open season. Yeah. And in fact, I was listening to a podcast about it, and they were referring to Sir Alex Ferguson, and he used to love it in games when the manager would bring on extra defender. Because he was like, well, that's just telling me what to do.
Yeah.
You're afraid of me and I'm going to just push on and keep attacking. And Liverpool did do that. And our nemesis, as you said, struck again at the back post. But I want to give some time just to kind of highlight Firmino, because him and Nunes came on off the bench and they changed the game. Absolutely changed the game. Like, they were just giving us so much extra problems to deal with. How big of a loss will it be when Firmino leaves at the end of the season? How important is it going to be for Liverpool to get a player in who can do what he did, even if it's in sparing moments, Matthew?
It's going to be difficult because players like him are becoming rarer and rarer as the time goes along. They're kind of that's stuck along for a long time, and at the time they were like part of, like, the deadliest front three of the Premier League. And over time, things change, football moves on, expectations grow, and he's not part of the plans that they see in the future. I mean, he's not exactly a worthless player. He's not even that old. But, if you see Mane's gone, Salah's position is way more difficult to negotiate because he's just that much more dependable in the games against United and the Liverpool, and your game proved my point. Where he's always felt like, I don't know, like I'm not gonna say the third wheel, but he's who you remember more of, Mane, Salah, or Firmino. But Firmino he's a committed player. He loves playing on the pitch. He's always so smiley and happy, and he respects his spot in the squad. He's much more understanding of the fact that you're not going to be 100. You're not going to start every game, but you're going to come on and you're going to do your thing, and something will happen. He's almost like someone. He's almost like an Origi in a way, where it's like, you will come on in the moment when I need you, and that is the exact same moment that he needed, because he likes scoring against Arsenal. He always knew something will happen. So it's almost like when he came in with. You could also look at that way where he took on someone like Nunes, where it's like, this is what is expected in situations like this. Because you will be in situations like this when you go play a better team, but the game's balanced, but you need to come up with something. You need to pull out something a little bit special and jump back a little bit higher than everyone else, and I'll show you what needs to be done when I eventually leave this club. I'm leaving it in the hands of you, because clearly they believe that you can do it. It's been a difficult year in your first year, but I believe that you will come good. So maybe them coming on is him learning on from someone that's been in the club for a long time. But that's the idea, I think. They see Nunes being there for a long time. The money they paid for him, the contract that he has. So these are the boots he has to fill. So his numbers, okay, maybe don't live up, but look at the moments he's provided. Yeah. This is when numbers, I'm just looking at the stats, really takes away from the commitment he's had at Liverpool. Look at the moments he's provided, the important moments, getting into the Premier League, getting into the Champions League. I guarantee we look back at games where he has scored an important goal and it was because of him. Absolutely because of him. So they're going to miss someone like that, where they know over time they've realised their place, but they know that they're still integral to the squad. So he'll be missed. And I can't even think of someone that they could buy in or tell in the squad, but that's what they're going to expect from their future at Liverpool. It's going to be really, really hard.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I had to stop myself from watching an 8 minute and 30 second compilation, maybe at Liverpool, of Firmino's goals against Arsenal. I had to stop myself. I was like, it's 8 minutes long. Are we all okay? Mustafi, are we okay? Like, what's going on? Because I know you're in the majority of that. It's practically you and everyone else. Like, what's going on? Like, I was like, I'm not gonna do it to myself. I know what he did in real time, but that's what 8 minutes for. 8 minutes, 8 minutes. But yeah, he's definitely going to be missed, and like you said, it's going to be very hard anyone to replace him, and it's going to be very important that either the player they buy in or the players that are there are understanding what's required from them. I guess the last thing to say, just on that Brazilian note, that first things first, Martinelli, if he can get 6 more goals in the last 8 games this season, He will be the youngest ever Arsenal player to hit 20 goals in Premier League history. He's 6 more goals in 8 games.
He's on 14 goals.
Yep. That's crazy when you think about it. And Saka can't be, I think Saka's on 11 or 12. So either one of them could do it. Wow.
So when Nicholas Anelka was at Arsenal, how many goals did he get in that double season? The following season. I know he got 19. Was it 19?
I think it might be 19. That's why I say if he gets to 20. Yeah. He has to hit 20 to beat the record. It's either 19 or 18 he got. But yeah.
10 games to go.
Crazy. You can do it.
And his favourite team is West Ham as well. He's got a good record against West Ham and loves scoring against them. So
got West Ham next.
Sunday, do your job.
And then what's been a really interesting stat for Arsenal as well, I think just like to round off on this Arsenal talk, is that since January 2022, when Arsenal scored first, out of 30 games played, we have won 28 and drawn 2.
And the 2 was the Liverpool game the other day.
Yeah, we don't lose them, we score first. And that is an astounding statistic.
The numbers, they look good.
And I think, to me, that statistic is a testament to the work Arteta's done in the team. That when we go ahead, we should stay ahead.
Stay, yeah.
What we really struggled with last season is when we went behind, it's not being able to come back.
Yeah.
This year we fixed that. So we've definitely leveled up as a team, and I'm very happy with the progress we're making. But today is not all about Arsenal and Liverpool. But I think on the whole, it was a very even game. I think people say Liverpool having a bad, inconsistent season, but when you actually delve a bit deeper into the numbers, they're still strong at home. And I know we were hoping to win at Anfield and we wanted to break that duck, but it's not an easy place to go to. And we tried. But for, better defensive play, and even in the end, Martinelli could have had that pass when he had a chance to break the 3v1 with Trossard and Saka, and a better pass would have been in for a 1v1, maybe. But at the same time, Kanate should have scored at the back post. And, before I leave Arsenal, let's talk about Aaron Ramsdale. Wow. Just like, what a season. The fact that, Arsenal fans were slated us for paying £35 million to sign a quote-unquote relegation goalkeeper, for a quote-unquote waste of money from Bournemouth, a player that had been relegated 2 years in a row.
Yeah, Sheffield and then Bournemouth.
Bournemouth and Sheffield.
Sheffield. But then he's just come in and proved them wrong, and he's proved us all wrong, and he's just continuing to show week in, week out just how good he is. And we knew with Ramsdale from last year that when he's not kept busy, he can get distracted. But this season, I think he's really improved that, being ready for when moments come. Because come next year and seasons going forward, he's not going to face 10, 15 shots in a game. He might only face 5. Because I'm thinking about the progression of Arsenal, and we get the defenses, and we keep adding more players to the group, and we kind of upgrade Partey, and then we upgrade Holding, and then we bring in someone to challenge Saliba. You think about the squad growth, right? It's going to be less times for him to be making certain saves, right? So he has to be ready. But for you, Matthew, how impressed have you been with him just in general, and especially in the game against Liverpool?
Always like a good goalkeeper. Obviously playing myself and coming off of having great goalkeepers in the past. And he's just I swear when he was Bournemouth, wasn't he their player of the year? Because it wasn't so much it was his fault, but it was
the clubs.
For both of them. So you see what happens when a difference, just how much confidence they have when they have a much better defence in front of them. Because, it's the Sheffield defence and the Bournemouth defence clearly weren't that good. They got relegated back to back. So it shows you it wasn't really his fault, but him stepping into that, hotspot in Arsenal where, kind of forced him to kind of get better. You've clearly seen just how much, and what I like about him, he loves the banter. When they give it to him, he gives it back. He loves it. He's well addressed with the Premier League. His confidence has grown. I mean, that was a fantastic save from Salah, because he doesn't know where it's going, but he has to react so quick because the ball it wasn't so much the speed, it was the whip.
Yep.
And he just gets that really strong glove.
And it had deflection as well.
And it was deflected, so just lightning reactions. He's been he's done a good buy for you. Clearly, they're looking at something. We look at one, you don't see the other. So it's been really, really, really impressed with his progress, and he's going to be having a great time in the Champions League next year. Absolutely brilliant time. So credit where credit is due. He's been a great, great, great asset to the club.
No, I've definitely been very happy with him, and it's been a great testament to us. And we'll just see how the season ends. Obviously, Man City are pushing very hard. They had a great win against Bayern Munich yesterday. They made Bayern Munich look average.
Silly.
And I've not seen Bayern Munich play that poorly this season. And obviously, Some people have been like, well, if Nagelsmann was still here, he wouldn't have lost. Yes, you would have. You would have got slapped up more. And yeah, they're just doing what they do in the league. The Brock Lesnar football is continuing to push on and get close to making new records, but I'm kind of a bit tired of Haaland right now. Bored of the kid. Give him Player of the Year and just be done with it. But let's head over to the Blues. We've gone from North London, which was very red, very white, via Liverpool. Now we're back at Stamford Bridge. New manager, Frank is back. Same old crap. Like, what's your... How are we feeling Lampard back part 2? Because obviously last podcast we talked about the rumours about it and you kind of outlined what a Chelsea manager is. And I got to give it credit to the people that commented. Thank you guys for letting us know your thoughts on that video. And those who've seen the video out all over socials. But what's very telling, one person's comment, they said, that sounds like Tuchel. And he's gone now. But Lampard's is back. What are your thoughts, first of all, of his return? And how did you find his first match back in charge?
It's like Potter never left. I don't blame him. Whatever happens between now and the end of the season is not going to be his fault because this is what he is working with. It shows you that, the problems that we have in this club are just so deep. Luckily, on the Saturday, I was at a beautiful, beautiful wedding, so it didn't dampen my spirits at all. I also drank a lot of alcohol too and realised the next day just how bad it was. And then I saw the goal. First of all, cracking goal.
Yeah.
Cracking goal. But in that time, it deflected off to bounce and then get scored. I could have gone back to work and it'd be summer term. How is the ball in the air for so long and nobody goes and no one get there? And who's the defender running up to him? Cucurella, as I call him. It just didn't need. It was a great goal, and sometimes you have to stand there and watch and say it's a great goal. It didn't need to happen. We were hopeless in that game. I thought Villa was bad. This is up there with the top 10 worst performances of the year. We were hopeless. Just Kai Havertz doing his best, which is diddly nothing. Even Thingy had a bad game. Sterling didn't have a great game. No one had a great game, maybe bar from, Fofana. I know it's default to go for the likes of James and Chilwell, but that's because they're the only players that have tried to be doing anything. And, we have I think he started Aubameyang, which he probably forgot how to play football. He hasn't played for
I know, he came off the bench.
He came off the bench, probably forgotten how to play football. Why we didn't start him and put Havertz on the bench? Because Havertz is on the bench tonight, and Havertz plays better when he comes from the bench. That's how he scored his last goal against, I think it might have been Leicester or Leeds or something. I don't know, but it's just, I feel for him this time because of how he got let go last time, and he's come in and it seems if anything, it's gotten worse. It's proven that he can't handle a big squad with big personalities. And arguably, this team he's coming into now has way bigger personalities because you've got new guys coming in with all these promises, and those players want to meet those promises and be like, well, hang on, you said we're going to get this, and this eventually, but you're bringing in a guy that, lost the championship playoff final. You're bringing in a guy got sacked with better players in ninth position, and you bringing in a guy that got sacked from Everton who left him in relegation. So, was there what's the thinking behind bringing him in to further, and let's look at his legacy with the club. You're telling me this is not going to damage his legacy even more? Our top scorer of all time, who was, one of the core reasons for winning all the silverware we did over those years, and you're going to tarnish his legacy because you couldn't figure it out in the first place? Crazy. It's almost as if I actually feel sorry for him because he's down. We're playing as we speak right now against Real Madrid. Good knows. He probably might need a rugby goal instead of a football goal at this rate. I just don't. It's all very disheartening at the moment. We're still not on 40 points. We're still not even on blooming 40 points, and it's kind of mid-April, technically. So there's no harmony, there's no communication, there's no kind of cohesion. We don't start, we don't even know what a striker looks like. Our top scorer has 7 goals. And Martinelli has double that by himself. So, I literally show little care to any game that comes up because either I'm busy or there's Formula One. That's literally my livelihood right now. I am watching this game tonight because I'm paying my TV to watch it. So I best believe I can get the best out of it.
Well, it's currently 0-0, so you're doing okay.
Oh, for now.
But it's not long gone in the game, so it's early days, but we'll see.
We'll see, man. It's just a disaster at the moment.
But for you, Craig, because I mean, the interesting news that came out as well this weekend is that apparently the recommendation to bring Lampard back came from James Corden, of all people, to Todd Boehly. Now, I don't know why Todd Boehly's taking football advice from James Corden.
Say what now?
Yeah, James Corden recommended Frank Lampard back to Chelsea to Todd Boehly.
Excuse me.
So, Craig, whilst Matthew processes that absolutely ridiculous news, and actually maybe it's like a testament to the circus that is Stamford Bridge right now, how do you think things will go for them now to kind of round out this season, and what do they need to do in the summer?
Well, they need to get that 40-point mark, so they're out of the relegation worry. They need 1 point to get 40 points. Once they get that 1 point, they can start building for next season. Obviously, they're going to have a new manager in.
Marcelo Gallardo came out this week and said that he's interested in the job.
I'm still stuck on James Corden, to be honest.
And Marcelo Gallardo, he's a River Plate manager, very successful, very good. In fact, when Man United were looking for a new manager before Ten Hag got confirmed, that was a name that I thought they should have gone for. And I think if they had gone for him, I'd have been very worried. So if you do get him, I will be very concerned because it will put you back in the conversation again. Because right now, we're in the room and you're outside.
Is he in South America or is he in Europe?
South American manager.
Okay.
Very, very successful. He's won them a couple of stories, a couple of seasons on.
Is he like Bielsa? Like a bit like Bielsa? Or
he's like the yes and no, but yes and no. He's a modern manager. Okay. He plays very good football. So he's kind of like from the school of thought of your
Guardiola's and
yeah, a little bit.
And Klopp's
and Klopp and the Nagelsmann, the Tuchel, and the Arteta. So like a modern coach. Very good ideas. Very good football.
I thought Chelsea need a manager like that now because they've been the last couple of managers they've had. Or Tuchel's a good manager for them, but I think they want Potter was the job too early for him. He should have gone to like a Newcastle, for example, then go to a Chelsea if he'd done well at Newcastle after. He kind of skipped the line a bit, and I feel that in the summer you got a massive clear up to do. In the summer, Chelsea got a massive clear up to do. You've got so many players. And you're going to have to get rid of players to financial fair play is going to come into it next season. And you've got a lot of unhappy players, so you need to get rid of players and rebuild. Ziyech is unhappy. Aubameyang's unhappy. Mason Mount's not happy, not got his new contract. You got João Felix, who might want to go back to Atletico, or you might keep him.
He said he wants for reasons I don't know why. Apparently wants to stay, but he's one of our better players. Yeah, he's one of a few players that actually make something happen.
You got to make a decision on Raheem Sterling. Do you keep him or do you sell him after one season? He's flat to deceive. I rate him as a player, but he hasn't really done it for Chelsea this season, to be fair. It's a shame, really, because you thought that after what he did at Man City, he would come into Chelsea and the slot in straight away, hit the ground, run in.
I think there's another gear to kick for him. I think he's got something to show when he's there.
I think under the right manager, he could definitely do it. You don't turn into a bad player overnight like that. No. Class players, like as I say, class is permanent. Form is temporary, class is permanent. So
he's still got a lot. And he's not even in his 30s.
He's not even in his 30s. He's like 28 now. So I think he's still got.
He's a big man.
Yeah. Just a quick note of Marcelo Gallardo, who I think the Sun was saying yesterday that he is. I don't read the Sun. It popped up on my phone. Don't judge me. Okay. That it's close, and Enzo Fernandez is the one who's back in the deal. He has won the South American Coach of the Year 3 years in a row: 2018, 2019, 2020.
Wow.
He's also won Copa Libertadores 2 times: 2015, 2018. Copa Sudamericana 2014. It's like their Super Cup. The Super Cup Argentina 2017, 2019. The Argentinian Cup, the Copa Argentina in the 2015-16 season. 2016-17 season and 2018-19 season.
That's a season.
And there's more trophies. Wow. Trofeo de Campeones, the Liga La Profesional. This is all for River Plate, by the way. Wow. 2021. The Recopa Sudamericana, 2015, 2016, 2019. The Serga Bank Championship, 2015. And the Argentine League, 2021.
Wow.
He sounds like a drill sergeant, man.
Very accomplished.
You know who he
coach.
reminds me of? He reminds me of Mourinho. When Mourinho was winning all them trophies, like Porto, then he
winning
came to the Premier
mentality.
League and then said, "I'm the special one." Reminds me of
Someone
that.
to get some discipline. That you don't do that.
That's what
without-
Chelsea.
And he's a good age.
Discipline.
He's 47, Argentinian.
So he's
That's what it's
modernish,
about.
but he's like he's still got
That's what I think Chelsea lack discipline. They got too many ego players, all that
no-
on big wages, sitting there stinking out the joint that need to be slapped a peg or two. And
But having said that, if he was to come and flop, it would be such a disappointment. But his
On
CV
the- yeah.
is, and River Plate hadn't won anything in a long time. He's considered their most successful manager.
wow,
damn.
And when he came, they hadn't won anything in a long time, and he won in their first
Boca
trophy.
Juniors are winning everything, isn't it? They were just
Yeah,
dominating
it's all about
everything.
them, yeah.
So yeah, it's fair play. So that would be
Can't
interesting.
believe James. I mean, we don't. This is why he can't come back. This is why we don't want him here. Nonsense like this. Stick to West Ham, man. You got bigger problems than me. Funny enough.
Is James Corden a Chelsea fan?
Where's West Ham?
So what the-
He got
Listen.
bigger problems.
He
man.
cares to sabotage. He cares to sabotage Chelsea. I'm gonna sabotage. My team is doing bad. Let me sabotage Chelsea so they can get relegated.
If you're doing
That's
bad,
the-
you're
that's the West-
coming with me.
Maybe.
Maybe with that shiny stadium and all them big contracts, you got bigger problems, my friend.
Maybe.
Oh man.
Oh god.
But I
But
mean,
like
maybe.
this Scalado guy, if it's true.
Gallardo would be a good shout. A really
I
good
can
shout.
see him being like, we need a bit of a drill. So we need like a world's strictest parent, send them to like the deepest parts of South America, and just straight up regiment. First of all, these players get slapped.
You need that. You need that.
We do indeed. I mean, there was a lot of another set of VAR mess ups, but I'm going to save that conversation for next week's podcast because I really want to just take a sit. We need to take a seat, and we need to actually we're going to make a proposal to the Premier League how to fix VAR, and we're going to give them some suggestions from us. But I guess the final thing to kind of talk about, Palace, big win against
Massive win.
Leeds.
Massive.
4-1 away from home.
5-1.
Leeds went
5-1.
Sorry. 5-1 away from home. Leeds went 1-0 up, and then Palace sort of turned things around. First thing I want to ask you, Craig, is do you think Palace would have won that game under Vieira? The game going the same way, they go 1-0 down. Do you think they'll beat Leeds under Vieira?
Well, the form that Crystal Palace on the Vieira towards the end, no.
Okay.
Wouldn't have won it without.
And then for you, Matthew, like how impressed have you been with Hodgson coming back in? Like I was very skeptical. I thought it was unimaginative as well. But it just seems like a stroke of genius now on reflection. 2 games in, and they just look a whole different team.
Whole different. So I said that's that experience, and he's travelled in that kind of way. I know with England it was very kind of uninspired with how it ended with the the Euros and everything. But at that club level, especially like Fulham and things like that, this is the level he's at. He's very, very good, and that experience is absolutely shining through. I mean, he's been in the game for like how long? So, credit where credit is due. I mean, it almost shows as if, maybe we didn't have a problem scoring. Maybe we just need to have a different approach. Because some of the players that are there now are different to the players that he left. True. So maybe with different players, he's maybe able to find a different angle so we're not entirely relying on Zaha, because Zaha's always on the cards to leave to go somewhere. So, credit where credit is due. It seems to be a bit of a good move by them. Like, I don't think they're going to get relegated. They're like, 6 points behind us?
Yeah.
So I'm only saying that because they are 6 points behind us currently.
So what you're saying is they have a chance of leapfrogging you.
I didn't say that. I just said they were 6 points. I just said they were 6 points behind
He's
us.
cooking.
Next few games are very interesting.
If we get overtaken by Hodgson, I will quit football.
So,
Don't.
listen, first things first, we need you on the podcast. But secondly, don't hold yourself to that, because your next game is Brighton at home. Their next game is Southampton away.
Yeah.
And then after that,
Arsenal.
They have Everton at home.
Who do you have?
I think we have Arsenal.
And
I know we have Arsenal coming up at some point.
You
got us on the
have
2nd of May.
Brentford.
You guys on the 2nd of
You
May.
have Brentford. And then the third game, to really tie all these things together, they have West Ham at home, and you have Arsenal
away.
So you see all those games we had over the last couple of months. Those were the winnable games.
Yeah.
And I think we won 2 of them.
So I want you to just retract that statement right now that you will quit football if Palace leave for you, because they could. Based on those fixtures, they could. It's not inconceivable.
Wouldn't it be funny, right, if we just went on a tear and beat all the game, win all our games towards the end of the season?
Not against us though.
I was going to say. I mean, beat
You can
City.
beat the other team, but don't beat us. We need to win the title, mate.
Yeah, you know, you have our permission to beat everyone else. Palace, we'll see.
Spending all that money at Roy Hodgson parties.
But yeah, I mean, it's been crazy. I think this has been a great season of football. Really, when you think about it, from the World Cup in Qatar with all the controversy, but on the pitch it was beautiful. You know, the Women's World Cup coming up. It's going to be very exciting to see as well. We've had the great Euros as well from the summer. The league in general has been very good. Obviously, we saw the National League, Vanarama, Wrexham, Notts County, a game for the ages. Ben Foster, back at his first ever club, saves a last minute penalty to give him a 3-2 win, to put him in the driving seat for automatic promotion. There's just so many scripts. Chiba Akpom, Arsenal Academy graduate, one of the top scorers in the Championship now at Middlesbrough's finally found his feet, found the right club, although he did really well in Greece on loan a few times, did really well there. But finally finding his feet, and I think finally now living up to the promise that, for me personally, he's still one of my favourite Arsenal strikers that didn't quite make it at Arsenal. Him, Benik, I'll always have those two because I just...
And J. Emmanuel Thomas as well. He was a good player at Arsenal.
But he wasn't a striker. He just didn't have position. But he's a whole different category of a talent. J. Emmanuel Thomas was just a generational talent, but it just didn't work out because we didn't know where to play him because he was tall and technical. So he was like... Yeah, generational talent, just out of time.
And all these players you mentioned came through the same time as Jack Wilshere.
Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it?
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, all the same generation. But hey, glad, happy for Chiba, and hopefully he will find Middlesbrough to the Premier League and then they can have a season. Because I don't want him to leave to another team. I want him to have a year there in the Prem and we'll see how it goes. But that's us signing out. We'll definitely cover some more games and teams in the Championship in the future. So if you have any requests, do let us know. And what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Lampard will surprise us all and bring the hoops back to West London?
Hope so.
God, no. 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 Will Chelsea finish behind Palace? And lastly but not least, who will survive relegation? Next episode, we're going to do a deep dive on the bottom 6, 8, 10. There's a lot of teams. Maybe bottom
Chelsea.
Yeah. Maybe. But I think the bottom eight teams is to kind of see where it might go, because I personally think it will go down to the last game of the season and it might be 6 teams out of 3. 3 out of 6 teams might go down, but we'll see. That's us signing out. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of the week.
Peace.